What up? What up? What up? It is Golden Spaces, an Odyssey original podcast with Justin and Nat. And I think tonight we are feeling a lot of vibes. I think that's right, Justin.
I think so too.
Where
Great
we at?
win.
Give me a number.
We was at 9 last time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we was at 9 last time. We're gonna say 9.2.
9.2.
We
I'm
win.
with it.
We win it.
Not gonna challenge
Yeah,
that
we
score.
win it.
I'm with it. We had 9.2. So there were so many things I loved about this game tonight. But before we get into that, well, I'm going to say one of the things. I loved that we got a scoring output from all three of our guys, right? I think Jordan was the leading scorer, but Clay chipped in 20. Steph was close to 30, I believe. Jordan with his 33. Like, that's the kind of output. Like, I know Jordan's not going to always be 33 every night, but we need, like this kind of scoring from the three of them. So I was really happy to see that. But I'm not going to continue with some of the other things I like. I want to ask you, Justin, because I keep seeing the broadcast saying this, but this may be their best win of the season. Do you agree with that?
I think given the time, like where we are right now, and like how everything's so close and how every win is so needed, I think every win at this point that they can stack on is like the most important win. But it was a really good win because they were going up against a monster, and it didn't look like he was going to be denied tonight. But they ended up, pulling away at the end. So I say it's up there. It's definitely up there.
Yeah, I think Embiid definitely started to get tired as the game wore on. Like after that first
Mhm.
quarter, he played the whole first quarter. I'm like, well, you can't play him the entire game, and he ain't gonna last. So I knew that was coming. But
Right.
the free throws, Justin, he shot a lot of free throws. This game tonight was one of his, I think, second highest in terms of the number of free throws he shot. Were the
Mm.
Warriors just fouling that much, or was some of it the Embiid? You know,
I think he's a grifter, but I do think there are majority fouls. The Warriors are just sending multiple bodies. Guys are running into him. He does this thing where he does like a Harden thing, like his version of it, where he sweeps his arms underneath your arms, which is a foul, but it's like kind of like cheap, like it's like one of those like a grifting thing. Like he works the refs, but he's such a big physical body that you can't say people aren't like hacking him a little bit, So, it is what it is. He played well. Like you said, we knew he was going to kind of run out of gas at some point. Um, and though they got enough stops at the end, and they also just forced the ball out of his hands a little bit with some double teams, and guys weren't ready to shoot. So, yeah, great win.
yeah. I mean, and again, this may be the fatigue or whatever it was, but there were a few possessions where I saw Loon on him and he changed his mind about what he was going to do, whether it was to shoot, to try to like get closer to the rim, because it was like
Hmm.
further out on the perimeter. They weren't like giving him that chance to, get in close. And he would then just give up the ball. And I was like, okay, Loon, but the doubles were good too. I noticed that, and I'm like, okay, they definitely switched up their defense later in the game as it went.
Yeah, they were applying a little bit more pressure on the pass, so he couldn't just catch it like you said, so close to the basket or in his like mid post area. He was kind of catching it out near the 3 point line. Um, and Loon is just going to keep coming at you like physical. Even though he had the size disadvantage against Embiid tonight, he was just still letting Embiid fill him every time he tried to dribble. A few times he kind of like knocked the ball loose from Embiid, and then you can kind of see the fatigue setting in with Embiid. He just wasn't as sharp with his moves and stuff. And then the threat of Draymond's double team was always there. So I think the combination of all those things started making Embiid like second guess himself a little bit, and it definitely worked out because he was cooking for like 40, 42 of the 48 minutes of the game. He was just doing whatever he wanted. So
He was, and that's the thing. Sort of like Luca. the Mavs who lost tonight. Embarrassing. All that carrying on they did the other day to then lose to who was it? The Hornets.
The LaMelo list, Terry Rozier list, Kelly Oubre list, Charlotte Hornets.
The Mavs are
Yeah,
an unserious team. I can't take them seriously.
very
Um,
unserious.
but I say he's sort of like Luca in that, like, you always know Luca's gonna wear down by the fourth. He just is. And I mean, and both are players who people constantly talk about like their conditioning and their health. I do think Embiid is better than Luca, but still, it's like, you know, he's just not going to look, he's a big 7 foot
Mm-hmm.
guy. It's a lot on his body. But to me, this reminds me, well, not it's not the same thing, but it's sort of reminiscent for me of the season when everything went awry with Ben Simmons, right? And they didn't advance past the second round, and the Hawks went and beat them. And I remember everyone was just on Simmons, and I said, "Look, the Simmons thing was egregious." But I said the Sixers still should have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I said Embiid did also fall short in that game. Like, I mean, just in general, like he was not. You know, people started telling me about his injury, his this, that. I said, but his injury, he was playing well for like the first 3 quarters, and then near the end, a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
mid-range shots and things that he normally makes just weren't going in. And I said that was an injury. That was just him fading.
Yeah. And people don't like to acknowledge, like, I mean, Embiid's a great player. He's one of the best players in the league, but people don't like to acknowledge that, like, it's tough to be able to have to carry a team offensively with a scoring load and be the anchor of a defense. Like, it's just that's one of the hardest things that you can do as a superstar. Um, and the Warriors repeatedly, and I was having a conversation with a few other guys, like when people bring up Jokic losing to the Warriors in an effort to prop up Embiid because of Embiid's defense, I'm like, Embiid is going to suffer the same fate against Golden State, right? Like maybe he would be a much better defender against 29 other teams in the NBA 28. Um, but against the Warriors, he will look just like Jokic looked, and that's exactly how it happened tonight, right? Put him in drop repeatedly, time after time after again. Steph's calling him up for a screen. He's getting little quick floaters at the rim. He's getting whatever floater or pull up midi that he wants because Embiid is just not going to extend himself out because he can't switch on him. And on the other end, he's tired because now he has to guard every single play. He has to guard every single action and then have to try to score on double teams on the other end. It's like you're not going to win that battle, right? You're not going to win that battle. So that, yeah, that's another big reason why he's going to wear down against a team like Golden State.
Yeah, and by the way, just because you know I'm not for Jokic winning MVP, and Embiid might actually get it. It's looking like he picked up enough steam. So while I
Mm-hmm.
was happy we won tonight, I don't want to hurt his MVP case too bad. But you know, I actually do think the defense argument is a valid one in that, like, it may not work against the Warriors, but to me, the reason why I think it's important because when people talk about how efficient Jokic is, I'm just like, well, when you're playing the kind of defense Embiid is playing, like you're maybe not going to be as efficient, you know, but like he's still pretty efficient, and
Oh
he's a
yeah.
leading scorer. Like, you know, you would think, you know, the way people act, like, oh, you know, they go so crazy and on the analytics for Jokic, but I'm just like, Embiid is still the leading scorer in the NBA, still very efficient, and he's definitely a much better defensive player. Like, so to me, like that to me is a situation where like his defense to me does matter. Um, versus like because people be like, oh, but you know, when it's Steph, and we already know how I feel. Like Steph is not this bad defender the way people make it seem, but it's different because of, in my opinion, like how much the defense is needed from Embiid versus like, you know, how much it's needed from Steph. And same thing for Jokic. And so the fact that Embiid is playing that role on his team to me is actually a very valid reason for why you should like give him the edge over Jokic, in my opinion.
Oh, that's valid. I mean, yeah, that's super valid. And I've always said it's kind of like preference. I do think this year Embiid, I've always been like a Jokic is better than Embiid guy, but I think this year Embiid has made it clear that the gap is much closer um, than a lot of people want to acknowledge, and he might even have the edge, right? Like what he can do on both ends. And he's always been like more of a volume scorer than Jokic has been, but like this year he's kind of taken it to another level where it's like he's just, I mean, what is he averaging? Like 34 a game, something like that. It's just crazy. He has every single move. Like he can do anything he wants to on the court, and the fact that he does anchor a pretty good defense, like an elite defense on the other end, definitely has to matter. Um, but yeah, in the matchup with the Warriors, Steph changes the rules, so it's like
Right.
it's not conventional basketball when you play against the
No,
Warriors. So both of those dudes are barbecue chicken for him. Like it is what it is. But
that.
yeah, against all the other teams, Embiid, that defense definitely makes a difference.
So, you know, one of the other stories of the game, right, was the rebounds. they out they out rebounded the Sixers, which I love. And to some people that may be like, how did it wasn't this game, but it was early in the season. I can't remember which game where the Warriors out rebounded another team, and people are like, how do you let like the worst or one of the worst rebounding teams or something like that like do this? I was like, y'all got to stop just looking at this year and the stat. I said the Warriors have actually always been a great rebounding team. They do it by committee, but it's
Mhm.
that's how they rebound. And I said we've had so many players in and out of the lineup, but when they like are locked in and dialed into it, I said, I mean, look at last year in the postseason. They out rebounded Memphis. They out rebounded everyone in like every series, but Memphis in particular, where like that was, they were the team and like we weren't supposed to be able to do that. And we did in every game except one game. It's like they're
Mhm.
very good at it. They know what to do. And to me, Joel Embiid is getting all them free throws, which is the other story of the game. And so, like for them to out rebound the Sixers was obviously so important in this game, and obviously a big part of the reason why they were able to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're forcing stops, I feel pretty confident in their ability to secure most, if not all, of those rebounds. I think based on like rebound percentage, they're like middle of the pack this year. But I think so many of their road games, other teams are just shooting lights out. There's just not a lot of rebounds available because the ball is going through the net. So yeah, I mean, when they locked in, they can rebound with the best of them. Dante's a good rebounder for a guard. Same thing with Steph. Clay's been rebounding a little bit more. I think he's averaging a career high in rebounds this year. And then you always trust Draymond and Looney to get those contested rebounds against pretty much anybody. So um, I don't really
And
think
they're
the whole
going to have
rebounding
GP2
concerns.
coming back.
They're gonna have GP2 coming back, great rebounder, especially long rebounds when people are shooting threes and stuff like that. So I don't think the rebound concerns are valid. Like they always come through in that regard. So
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, like we said, this was a great win, whether you consider it the best win of the season or not. It was a great win. And is that 3 in a row for us?
that's 3 in a row. I told you what it's gonna be. I told you last 10 games what it's gonna look like. I'm not gonna repeat it right now, but
Why? You scared, Justin? You don't want to stand on what you said?
I ain't scared. I ain't scared. I'm standing on it right now. I already told y'all what it was.
Okay.
Minnesota next,
Justin
and
has
then yeah.
spoken. Justin has spoken. All right, let's get into we already talked about Embiid and broke him down, but let's get into some of our guys. Let's get into some of our guys and let's talk about their play tonight. And of course, it has to go with Jordan Poole, right? I mean, he truly is maybe the top storyline of the game, which is why our producer Greg has the great headline here. Jordan Poole goes for 33 points. Warriors erase an 11-point deficit and win over the 76ers. So what happened, Justin? Why were the Sixers able to even go up and get that double-digit lead?
Um, I think late in the third, the Warriors had like a smaller lineup in there. There were some defensive mistakes, some by he who should not be named.
Okay, I was just about to say he
And
was
then
not good in this game. He was not good in this game. Just yet another example of why he should not be playing. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
yeah, this was a tough game. It was a tough game for him, but I think the Sixers just went on a nice little run at the end, and B got a few fouls. I think Maxey hit a three, and it was one of those like, okay, these are star level players just making plays. We just gotta go on our run in the fourth quarter and try to make a push at the end, and that's exactly what happened. They just made sure they were close enough when the fourth started that they had a chance to make a push. And it was sparked by Jordan Poole, who I believe had what, like 19, 20 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's
He was
huge, right?
incredible.
He was. And it kind of shows you the growth. Where it's like all year, I think his offensive game outside of 3-point shooting and like turning the ball over has been pretty good. I would say he's even improved this year from last year, like his getting to the basket game and stuff like that. But tonight, his three was there, right? For the majority of the season, his three ball has kind of like abandoned him a little bit. But when it's there, he's going to give you 30 to 40 points because all the other aspects of his game are going to be there. So only one turnover. That's like, hooray, right? Like, thank God he only had one turnover despite having the ball in his hand so much. And he just made shots and he made plays. So he's on a
Yeah,
nice
I
little roll
mean,
right now.
early in the game, he took a deep three from like another
Yeah, that
county, and
wasn't
I
a
was
great
like,
shot.
oh, just I was like,
That wasn't a great
okay.
shot. Yeah.
He made it. And I was like, okay, Jordan. I was like, is it gonna be one of these kinds of nights? Yeah, it turned out to be one of them nights.
Mhm.
But you want to know my favorite thing from Poole? One, that he was able to stay on the floor in the closing minutes of the game.
Mhm.
And there was a play, like I want to say it was like in the last minute or 2 minutes. And I don't even remember who he was guarding, but like he stayed in front of his man. He didn't
Mhm.
foul. Like, I think Fitz even like said something about it, but I was like, look at Jordan, go Jordan. Like, I felt like a proud mother, and I like that for me was one of the biggest highlights of his game.
Yeah, when he's locked in on defense, he's actually not a bad defender. That's the whole like frustration when he doesn't give any effort out there on that end. It's like, bro, you can legitimately make a difference, and then it just feeds into their game, right? The Warriors' formula for all these years has been get a stop and then just run the ball right down the other team's throat and just blitz them with threes, like threes and layups. Like that's just been
Right.
their mo.
And it didn't have to be lockdown defense. It was just like you prevented the drive. Like he couldn't get by you, and then he had to give
Right.
up the ball, and that was it.
Just do your
You stayed in
job.
front of him. I mean, it was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Literally, just do your job. You don't have to be Wiggins out there. You don't have to be Gary Payton. Just don't be a cone. Like literally, stay in front of your man as long as you can, and make sure you boxing out, being physical when you can. Don't foul, and your job is done. Like you get paid. You're gonna get paid all this money annually for your offense, right? But you can't, cancel out the offensive value that you have with the negative defensive value, and that's all he got to do.
Yeah. So Steph was, I mean, his three wasn't falling tonight, but he was solid throughout, shot over 50% from the field. He better stop playing though in these last few games because I want him to get 50, 40, 90, and he went a little below it. Still time to get back there, but he can't, go
Mm-hmm.
back too far. And I really would like him to get it. But he was masterful too, especially down the stretch, like he just took over the game as he needs to. And yeah, I mean, they closed it out. Like Jordan had that huge, scoring outburst. And then Steph just said, all right, let me bring this home for y'all. Let me bring this home. And it was a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, he's just so under control. Like whatever he wants to do, he just does it. Gets to wherever he wants to on the court. So strong, guys just can't really get into his handle anymore. Dudes like DeAnthony Melton are like they're specialists when it comes to like picking people's pockets, just staying attached, being a pest on the ball. And Steph's just like, I don't even feel you, bro. Like, you know, um, Embiid at the rim, he's just laying it up over him like he's not really there. Like he has so many different finishes, so many different shots. Just a complete offensive player in every facet of the game. Like so, when the game's on the line, he's at least going to get a good look up because it's nothing else. There's nowhere on the court where he's uncomfortable. So this is what you come to expect at this point. right? Like
Yeah.
just put
And
the
he's
game
gonna
away as soon as he.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was gonna say as soon as he got the ball, I was like, "Oh, dagger's coming!" Like when they got that, when they went up, I think 5, and then the Warriors got the ball back. I'm like, "Oh yeah, dagger's coming!" Like it's guaranteed. And then he got that floater off, and it was it.
Yeah, because he Melton was like chasing him around like in the beginning of the game. And I'm just like, you were somewhat effective, but I'm just like, you're gonna wear down too, because doing this all night, it's gonna wear you
Mm-hmm.
down. And that point will come. That's why I don't even trip. Like when I see in the beginning, kind of like he really was like anywhere Steph went, he was just like shadowing him, like following him around
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And Steph just kept moving, kept moving, kept moving. And he kept going, all right, we'll see. All right, we'll
Then
see. That's all. I just
then
be waiting. And
yeah.
so, but the other thing too, I love to see, because the dagger was a floater, right? And this is what I keep saying about when we see them doing all the bullshit at the end of those other games where they're just like putting up threes, put up threes. And this is like when Chris was on, I was trying to explain, I was just like, I'm telling y'all, this road record and these issues closing are not real. Like, you're not going to convince me that this championship team has forgotten how to close. And I don't remember which game it was, but it was that one. I think it was after Atlanta, whichever was the second night of the back to back, might have been Memphis. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, they just were tired. Like, they were just like,
Yeah.
tired, settling. And it was like, all right, let's just try to get this by threes. And couldn't, oh wow. Like, and that's just what it was. And it sucks and it's annoying to watch. But I'm like, I don't think this is because they've turned into the Minnesota Timberwolves, even though that's what we were watching and it was frustrating to watch. But I'm just like, guys, like, I'm sorry. It's just like the shooting from last year, right? He was not in decline. It was just a slump. I said this team has not forgotten what they need to do to execute to close a basketball game, but they're just not there. Like, they're not, whether it's because of fatigue, they're tired. And I made this point, and like the more that I think about it, I think that I was right. So I'm just gonna give myself also like a little pat on the back. But like, we kept sort of waiting for like a point in the season to come where there was a run, and maybe it will be this, like a little mini run. But we were like sort of looking for like over a larger sample of games, maybe like 20 games or so, and they would maybe go 15-5 or like something like that. And that never came. And I said, I think at this point, the Warriors just want to get in as that top 6 seed, which, CJ came on and basically confirmed. But I just, the mental focus and fortitude that you need to even do that kind of run. I just think when you take into account everything that's happened over this season, I just don't think they had it in them to do that. It's like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. We are where we are. Let's just get to the postseason and we'll focus like we need to. And that's it. And that's sort of what I think it becomes. So like the way we kept expecting the run to happen and for them to show who they are, I think it was just more like, all right, like we don't have it in us to do it. It's like when you get down in the game and then like to dig deep to pull off that, come back. I feel like they just didn't have it in them for the later half of the season.
Yeah. And if they were to find that, it would have to been like fully available team, fully healthy team. Um, I think we all can agree that if they had that for any extended period of time, then they probably would have went on the run that we were talking about, but they just didn't. So guys got to extend themselves further to make up for the absence of whoever's out of the lineup, and that's just very hard to ask over an extended period of time. So it's good that they're kind of getting as healthy as they can. I mean, they are healthy now. It's just, Andrew's not available, but at least they're getting Gary back. And then, Andre's out. But this is pretty much what's going to be their playoff rotation other than Andrew, once Gary is like fully integrated. And that's all you can ask for at this point. All your guys here, and then just, everybody play their role and whatever.
And great news it was that we heard and received that GP2 is coming back. So we welcome that. And, hopefully, obviously it won't be enough games to get him into the kind of shape if he played like a full season, but at least he'll have some games to kind of get his conditioning back and, to head into the
Mm-hmm.
postseason. So really, really pleased about that. Um, Also, the news about Andre too wasn't so bad. It wasn't like he's a rap, you know. Um, I don't know if Andre will come back and play. You kind of in the beginning said like I don't know because like based on the injury, I don't know that he'll just like miss like the entire postseason. And then I wasn't so sure because when CJ came on, he's like, I think he's probably done. But the report at least was like, what was it like a month or something like that? 4 weeks, I think.
I didn't see. I didn't see. I didn't know.
Yeah. It was like in terms of like when like he's gonna have the surgery and he'll be out. I think it was like 4 weeks or something, or maybe it was like before like then he'll be reevaluated at that time or something. I'll look for it, but yeah, I mean, I was like, okay, maybe like it's like a Gary Payton where like if they make a deep run, they get Andre back later. You know, Kerr's gonna always trust Andre no matter what. So,
Right.
um, I thought that was also positive news because I would love it
I
if
mean,
what were you gonna say?
I was saying he was playing well when he was playing. Right. He
Yeah,
can't score or anything anymore, but he can at least defend and do all the little things that Kerr loves, and just keeping the ball moving and keeping players moving, telling people where to be. So it would be nice if they can get him back, and it would also be nice just from a compassion standpoint, right, to have him end his career on his terms and not just via
right.
injury. Like, just let him be able to at least play his last game through.
Yeah, just look, Golden State confirmed that surgery on Monday, so he had surgery this past Monday, was successful. And this past Monday would be the 20th. So that would have been on the 20th, on March 20th. And it says that puts the four and that Iguodala would be reevaluated in 4 weeks. So that puts the remainder of the regular season. That puts him out for the remainder of the regular season and at least the opening rounds of the playoffs. Right. So like he'll be reevaluated then. You know he'll need some others. So, like I said, if they make a deep run, you're talking about maybe like if not the second round, the conference finals, assuming they make it there. So that
Hmm.
to me is a positive thing.
Definitely, definitely. They can. I mean, they can use all the bodies they can get. So the sooner the better. But if it's third round playoffs, I'll take it.
Right, because in theory, even though this is a wonky year with the standings, in theory, the later you go in the postseason is right, the harder it gets. So
Hmm.
definitely would love to have an Andre Iguodala coming back. Which ties in perfectly to where I wanted to go next because speaking of people coming back, it was reported that Kevin Durant may be returning Wednesday to the Suns, and let me tell you, they need him because they keep losing. Um, and I don't know. Again, I'm starting to wonder maybe it's a good thing now for us to go get that, try and get the 4 seed. The Warriors right now are a half game back on the
Hmm.
Suns and
Yep.
maybe a full game back on the Clippers. Is that what it is?
Let me double check that.
They both have one less in the loss column, but I think the Clippers might have one more win than the Suns. Is
Yes,
that right?
but the no, no, the technically the Warriors and the Suns are tied based on win percentage, but we have one more loss than they do, and we have one more win than they do. And the Clippers are a half game ahead because we have the same amount of wins, but they have one less loss.
Yeah. So Clippers are now fourth. Suns are fifth, and we're sixth. But the Clippers record is 39 and 35. The
Hmm.
Suns are 38 and 35. And Golden State is, and people just the other day, people are like, because I kept saying, why are they on the broadcast? They were just like, oh, they kept talking about the Clippers. They just like, they'd have to drop. And I'm like, I forget what it was being said, but I tweeted like, why are they acting like the Clippers lead is so insurmountable? And someone had replied to me like, well, because the thing is the Warriors actually have to go ahead of the Clippers because they own the tie break, right? So they would actually have to end up with a better record than them. But I was
Right.
just like, and the person was making the case to me that you kept doing, which is like, I prefer the 6 seed because of the bracket. Da, da, da. And I said, I don't know. I said one was this Paul George injury might affect things. And I said, and without Katie, the Suns keep losing. So I don't know. It may not remain the case that 6 is actually better than 4. So let's see. And then when you and I talked the other day, you were just like, if the Clippers fall to 5 and the Warriors at 4, then you
That's
may
pretty
prefer
nice.
that. And I don't know when Paul George will be coming back. So I forget. They said he's going to be reevaluated too. So, I mean, he could be coming back for the first round. He was definitely going to miss the remainder of the regular season. But the Clippers have a much more favorable schedule than the Suns did.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think Paul George might be out for the first round. I'm not entirely sure, but that would be a pretty nice scenario. Yeah, I think that would be a pretty nice scenario. 4 or 5 Warriors, Clippers, with Phoenix at 6 or whoever else at 6. That'd be pretty cool. Because I mean, all these other teams that's in the 7 to 9 ranges, they close as hell too. So it's really going to go down to the wire. It's really going to go down to the wire.
It definitely is. And especially, like I said, with KD coming back, who knows because Marcus Thompson had a tweet earlier. And of course, I'm not probably going to be able to find it quickly, but he was like basically saying it by Sunday morning, he was like, if the Sixers beat the Suns tomorrow, and I forget what else had to happen. Are the Clippers playing
tomorrow?
Yeah, let me see. When do the Clippers play again? So Saturday they play the Pelicans. So I think it was if the Clippers lose and the Suns lose again, then on Sunday, if the Warriors win, they could be in 4th place. I think that's what it was.
That's true. They would. They'll be 40 and 36. The Clippers would be 39 and 36, and the Suns would be, I think 38 and 36 or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we might need to be going back for the 4th seed again, Justin. Just saying.
Hey, I have no issue with the 4 seed. I was just, thinking bracket, all that type of stuff. Like the 6 would be cool still. The 4 will also be cool. Like I'm not thinking like, oh, if we get the 4, this is not a good path for us. I'm just like, hey. Right. So
for sure. So, I mean, so much to watch. It's going to be so many storylines coming down to the end. But I will say this with respect to MVP, if MB does get this, I'm going to be one of the people who's taking credit for why it happened. Okay. Because, yes, sometimes bullying works. And I'm joking about bullying, but I think the attention and the scrutiny it started to receive about sort of like how the race was shaping out, I do think it impacted the vote. And when I say that's not to just be like, oh, well, like shame them into not voting, but it was like, pay attention to what Embiid is doing. Pay attention to what others are doing and just stop being so caught up in wanting to award this 3rd MVP. Like, I mean, these guys were just being overlooked, right? So I'm happy about that. Then there's going to be storylines because of like the West has just been crazy all year. And we're probably not going to really know seeding until the very last day of the season and matchups. Right. And when you have like seasons that play out like that, that's just always fun. It's like a wild finish. So that's pretty exciting. And I got to tell you, this is totally unrelated to storylines. But one of the things that was driving me crazy tonight about this game was the way that Fitz and Kalena was talking about this damn team. I'm like, do y'all know that these are the champions that Stephen Curry's on the team? Because they were just like, they just got to keep it close, and then give yourself a chance. I'm like, Like
Yeah, that was
I
a
was
wild
literally
game.
getting time. Like, can they please stop talking about the team like they're the little engine that could? Like, what the fuck is
Right.
this? They're the reigning champs. I don't give a shit
Right.
what Embiid is doing this season. They are the reigning champs.
They're the best.
And the
I mean, they got the
four-time
best player too.
champions are on this team. Exactly. Just keep it close.
Keep it
Just,
close.
y'all, I was sick. Y'all, I was sick. Justin, y'all, I was like, all right.
Those two dudes. Those two. Yeah. Just not great.
All right. Well, guys, it's been a fun one, but it is almost 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast, and I am so exhausted. I feel Justin probably is too, although he doesn't look it. But yeah, it's late. So even though it's a weekend, I'm taking my ass to bed. I don't know. Justin's a young person. He may have some plans tonight, but me, I'm going to bed.
I'm going to bed. I'm already mentally halfway in the bed right now. So
Thank you for tuning in with us and joining us as always. Okay. Make sure you are sharing. Make sure you are following. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Golden Spaces Pods. Make sure you continue those downloads. Make sure you subscribe to 95.7 The Game's YouTube channel so you can be notified when new episodes of Golden Spaces get posted. Okay. Leave us a review, a positive one. Also, give us that 5-star rating. Why are you smiling at me, Justin?
I'm just smiling.
Yeah,
Golden
whatever.
Spaces, the vibes. The vibes is there.
The vibes is there. Let's leave it at that, people. Until next time, take care.